should be in trouble. I normally I don't like that, but I'm just, that's ridiculous.
Since Randy Patrick's here, we can go ahead and get started with the meeting. It's 7 o'clock. We'll go ahead and call the regular city council meeting of November 28th to order. First item on our agenda is we're going to recognize members of our Bardstown Fire Department who participated in the Scott Firefighter World Challenge, and we're certainly proud of their performance. I think they finished 61st out of 250 other teams in their first appearance, and like Olympians, they broke their own time in the finals, by 10 seconds. How many times do you see that happen, in these performances when they're in the final thing, they beat their best time previously. So that was a great effort on the part. So we'd like to recognize Jared Gant and Mike Evelyn and Ernie Powell and Derek Gribbons, members of our fire department. You have another, Mr. Hale, missed you.
He's just with us tonight.
He didn't go.
Yeah, he didn't. He just shows up to look good.
Anyhow, I know we all have had some publicity in the media here before tonight, but it kind of your all performance was in between our last meeting and so forth. So we want to formally bring you here tonight and recognize you and thank you for your great representation of our community. And we're very proud of you. And I think Mr. Gribbons has a few words he'd like to maybe say on behalf of your team.
Well, Mayor, we appreciate it. We really do. But one of our guys, Mike Alden, wasn't able to make it tonight, and we had an awesome experience this year, and can't wait till next year. Ernie?
Yeah, just like, this is our first year competing. I think we've done really well. Really appreciate the council, mayor, for bringing us in tonight, acknowledging us. Looking forward to next year, competing in a couple different events next year. Hopefully improving our time even more next year than what we did this year. So we had a really good time and look forward to next year.
Could I train with you guys next year?
Absolutely.
Sure, come on.
I watched the video and it really didn't look like you all were all that tired.
It
was taxing.
No, I think we were it looked like it was a dog.
Well, that was Mike. He done really well. So.
How much did that weigh?
175 pounds.
Moving that thing like a floor.
I think the mannequin almost weighs more than Mike.
Cancel that request.
Well, we're getting on to formally recognize you all for that great performance and thank you for your work with our fire department and your service to our community, and you brought some more really great publicity to our community for a team effort. So thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't think we have any input from the public tonight, and so we'll move on down to the HRB and recommendations. I think we have 3 of those. Tim, I guess I call on you to read a summary of those.
Yes, sir, Mayor. I don't think anybody has a conflict on this. The last one's City of Bardstown, but I think we'll be able to bear through that. These are the recommendations, and for COA 1765 amended, Edward C. Applicant owner requests to construct a screen patio at 111 West John Fitch Avenue. Recommendation approval to install the proposed deck and patio. B, COA 1795 American Legion Post 121. Applicant owner requests to install a wood privacy fence at the rear of the property at 206 West Broadway Street. Recommendation approval to install the proposed fence with the following condition. Condition that the fence may be stained light brown, be left to age naturally, or painted white. The final color will be presented to the Preservation Coordinator for approval. C, COA 1796 Design Committee of Bardstown Main Street Program applicant, owner City of Bardstown and Nelson County, request to install 6 ashtray receptacles and 1 pet waste system downtown. Recommendation approval to install the ashtray receptacles and pet waste system at the proposed locations downtown with the following conditions. Condition that the bands for all items attached to the lamppost will be painted black.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Does anyone would like to make a motion to approve the recommendation of HRB for COA 1765, 1795 with conditions, and 1796 with conditions?
I would like to make that motion, Mayor, with the stipulations set forth.
Okay, we have a motion for approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I think the cigarette ashtrays will be a nice improvement downtown, because there's some areas that we've got where there are quite a bit, there's no place for them, you know, they stand and smoke outside the facilities, and there's no place for them to dispose of it, so I think that's something to help us keep our sidewalks and streets areas clean, as well as the pet waste system, so nice improvements from Main Street. Okay, looks like we have a review of the minutes of our November 14th meeting. Everybody had a chance to review those. If there's no corrections or additions, approval by unanimous consent. Okay, do that. I know Tim has been excited about this next part of the agenda.
Waiting 2 weeks for it.
As all of us have, waiting for the second reading of our ordinance number B 2017-16, which is a telecommunication franchise. Let Tim read the ordinance summary. It'll be the second reading.
Yes, sir. Ordinance B 2017-16, an ordinance creating and establishing for bid a non-exclusive telecommunications or related non-cable franchise for the placement of facilities for the generation, transmission, distribution of cellular telecommunications or related non-cable services within the public rights-of-way of the city of Bardstown for a 10-year duration. Summary. Now, therefore, be it ordained by the city of Bardstown as follows. Section 1 creates a non-exclusive franchise for telecommunications in the city of Bardstown. Section 2 sets forth that Bardstown's existing ordinances are incorporated herein. Section 3 sets forth definitions. The following definitions related to franchise fees are set in full. Franchise fee means, for the purposes of this ordinance, any fee that may be imposed by the government on grantee as compensation for grantee's use of public rights-of-way and roads. Use of this definition in this ordinance is without prejudice to any rights the grantee or government may have under federal and Kentucky law as they may be amended. Gross revenue means after adjustment for the net write-off of uncollectible accounts for the local, state, and federal government entities that claim exemption from franchise fees levied by the government on telecommunications services they purchase, and any and all revenues derived by the grantee within the city of Bardstown from grantee's telecommunications systems, including but not limited to revenues from the sale of and the use of telecommunications services originating or terminating in the city of Bardstown, revenues charged to or attributable to a circuit location in the city of Bardstown, regardless of where the circuit is billed or paid, revenues from the use, rental, lease, or the grantee's operating facilities within the city of Bardstown, revenues from the provision of any and all products, services, or charges, including installation, maintenance, and service charges, and revenues from any leases and indefeasible right of use interest, IRU, or any portion of the grantee's telecommunications within the city of Bardstown. IRU, or indefeasible right of use, means any form of acquired capital interest in the grantee's telecommunication system in which the holder possesses a right to use the telecommunication system, but not the right to control, maintain, construct, or revise the telecommunication system. Gross revenue shall not include revenues received from the provision of telecommunication services which are exempt from taxation under local, state, or federal law. Minimum annual franchise fee means $15,000 in the first year of the grantee's franchise and shall increase by $1,000 annually. Section 4 sets forth information to be included in applications for franchises. It states applications shall be accompanied by non-refundable application fee of $5,000 payable to the government, quotation City of Bardstown. Sections 5 through 13 set forth the following: the rights and privileges granted to grantees, standards for telecommunication systems, requirements regarding moving permits and tree trimming, requirements regarding project performance bonds, indemnification provisions, insurance requirements, requirements regarding non-discrimination and affirmative action, requirements for the transfer of control, and general rate cases, that the franchise shall be for the initial 10-year period. Section 14. Section 14 states, A, if after the grantee has provided the opportunity to appear and present evidence before the mayor or his designee, the mayor finds that the grantee has violated any of the following provisions of this ordinance, the following penalties shall be recoverable. The decision of the mayor or his or her designee shall be the final administrative decision and shall be in writing and provide the basis for the decision. The decision, it may be appealed to a court of competent jurisdiction. 1, for failure to complete or remove any construction project no later than the ending term of any franchise awarded pursuant to this ordinance or any extension thereof, the grantee shall forfeit $500 per day or any part thereof if the violation continues. In lieu of a penalty, the grantee may post a performance bond, letter of credit, or other surety acceptable to the government in the amount sufficient to complete such construction projects. This section shall not apply to any projects for which performance bonds or other surety is already pledged. 2, failure to provide data and reports requested by the government as required by this ordinance, the grantee shall forfeit $500 per day or part thereof that the violation continues. 3, for failure to pay a permit fee or franchise fee when due pursuant to local law, the grantee shall forfeit $500 per day or part thereof that the violation continues. Subsection B. If the grantee fails to comply within 30 days of any council resolution directing compliance with any other provisions of this ordinance, the grantee shall forfeit $500 per day or part thereof that the violation continues. The decision of the council may be appealed to a court of competent jurisdiction. Subsection C. The grantee shall not be excused from complying with any of the terms and conditions of this ordinance by any failure of the government upon any one or more occasions to insist upon the grantee's performance or to seek the grantee's compliance with any one or more of such terms or conditions. Payment of penalties shall not excuse non-performance under this ordinance. The right of the government to seek and collect penalties shall set forth in this section is in addition to its right to terminate and cancel as set forth in section 16 of this ordinance. Sections 15 through 20 set forth the following requirements regarding maintenance of the telecommunication system, Bardstown's right to terminate and cancel the franchise, requirements in the event of foreclosure or judicial sale, Bardstown's rights under the appointment of a receiver or trustee, requirements to advertise for bids and the bidding process. Section 21. Section 21 reads in full as follows. A. During any period of time during which the government opts to forego collecting a franchise fee in lieu of participating in the multi-channel video programming and service tax scheme under KRS 136-600 at SEEK, the grantee shall not be required to pay franchise fees. If at any time the government opts to exercise its constitutional right to collect franchise fees, the grantee's first franchise fee payable under this chapter shall be paid to the government 60 days after the government gives notice to the grantee that the government has opted to exercise its constitutional right to collect franchise fees. B, the telecommunications excise tax distribution from the state is not a payment in lieu of any tax fee or other assessment except as specifically provided in this ordinance or as permitted by applicable law. By way of example and not limitation, permit fees and business license taxes are not waived and remain applicable as provided by law to the extent that they are not franchise fees. Additionally, the government may at any time impose any fees or taxes consistent with state or federal law, including but not limited to property taxes and occupational license fees. C, if the government exercises its constitutional right to collect franchise fees, grantee shall pay an annual fee to the government which must be the greater of either A, the minimum annual franchise fee, or B, the amount equal to either 5% of the grantee's gross revenues if the grantee provides telecommunication service to customers within the city of Bardstown, or if the grantee does not provide telecommunications service to the customers within the city of Bardstown, an amount equal to $2 per lineal foot of facilities plus $1,500 per antenna or small cell. The grantee's first minimum annual franchise fee payable under this ordinance shall be paid to the government 45 days after the law is changed to allow the collection of franchise fees on telecommunication services. Such payment will be prorated for the remaining calendar year, rounded to the nearest month through December 31st. Thereafter, grantee shall pay each minimum annual franchise fee on or before April 15th, and the grantee's minimum annual franchise fee payment will apply to the current calendar year, January 1st through December 31st. Any minimum annual franchise fee paid to the government will be credited toward the grantee's franchise fee for that calendar year. In order to avoid penalization, the government will notify the grantee in writing at such time as it believes that it is allowed to assess franchise fees due to a change in the law. If the government fails to notify the grantee shall be relieved from its obligations to any applicable penalty, but shall still be obligated to pay any outstanding franchise fees. C, gross revenue-based franchise fee payments to the government shall be computed based on the grantee's gross revenues from each calendar year quarter period, January 1st through March 31st, April 1st through June 30th, July 1st through September 30th, and October 1st through December 31st, and paid on or before the 45th day following each calendar quarter period during the term of a franchise created under this ordinance. Franchise facilities-based franchise fee payments shall be computed based on the grantee's lineal foot of facilities in the city of Bardstown as of January 1st of each calendar year, and paid on or before April 15th of the calendar year during the term of a franchise created under this ordinance. Payment not received by the government by the due date shall be assessed interest equal to 1% per month. Interest shall be compounded daily. Interest shall be due on the entire late payment from the date on which the payment was due until the date on which the government receives the payment. Prior to making each payment to the government, grantee shall file with the government a written report containing an accurate statement in summarized form as well as in detail of its calculation of the amount of the payment, verified by an officer or other authorized representative of the grantee, setting forth its gross revenues according to their accounting subdivisions and any deductions claimed for the period upon which the payment is computed. Such report shall be in a form satisfactory to the government. I, if any franchise fee owed to the government upon reasonable notice, if any franchise fee is owed to the government upon reasonable notice, the government shall have the right to inspect the grantee's income records, the right to audit and recompute any amounts determined to be payable under this agreement, provided, however, such audit shall take place within 12 months following the close of each grantee's fiscal years. If, as a result of such audit or review, the government determines that the grantee has underpaid its fees to the government in any 12-month period by 10% or more, then in addition to making full payment of the relevant obligation, grantee shall reimburse the government for all expenses incurred as a result of an audit or review, and such payments shall be paid within 30 days following written notice to the grantee by the government, which notice shall include a copy of the audit report and copies of all invoices for which the government seeks reimbursement. J, if any franchise fee is owed to the government, in the event that any franchise fee payment or recomputed amount is not made to the government on or before the applicable dates heretofore specified, interest shall be charged from such date at an annual rate of 2% over prime interest rate. K, the government reserves the right to require the grantee to collect any consumer or other tax or other fee that may be imposed on the government, the Commonwealth of Kentucky, or the federal government on telecommunication services. L, notwithstanding the above, the grantee shall be required to pay the government for an annual general permit in the amount of $12,500. This payment is intended to adequately compensate the government for its permitting and inspection of the grantee's construction activities in the rights of way, effective commencing on the first anniversary of any franchise granted pursuant to this ordinance. and continuing for 1 year each anniversary thereafter. The annual general permit fee with respect to the ensuing 1-year period shall be increased by 3%. Notwithstanding the above, the grantee shall be required to pay the government an amount intended to adequately compensate for its permitting and inspection of the grantee's construction activity in the rights of way pursuant to the code, and all attorney's fees that the government may incur relating to franchise process, including but not limited to any attorney's fees incurred relating to granting the franchise and any transfer, renewal, or modification of the franchise. Sections 22 through 32 set forth the following: additional requirements regarding a telecommunications system, letter of credit, and performance bond requirements regarding discontinuing of use of facilities, requirements regarding offers of payment, provisions regarding forfeiture of franchise, the laws of the Commonwealth of Kentucky shall govern, obligations to comply with the ordinance, requirements regarding designation of a local agent. No contractual relationship is created in favor of a third party. If any portion of the ordinance is unconstitutional or otherwise invalid, such infirmity shall not affect the ordinance's validity, and the franchise created by this ordinance shall become effective when the bid for it is accepted by the council. This summary was certified by me, Tim Butler, City Attorney.
Thank you, Tim. Okay, this is a second reading, so I'll call for the vote individually.
Well, somebody should make a motion
Okay.
first.
We have a motion then for the second reading.
I'll make a motion we adopt ordinance B 2017-16 telecommunications franchise.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second.
I'll second the mayor.
Second by Councilman Douglas. Now I'll call for the vote individually. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Do it.
Individually.
Aye.
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 Motion passed. Thank you. All right, the next one is the ordinance of the pawnbrokers. It's the second reading as well. Tim, you want to?
I'm ready. Ordinance number B 2017-17, an ordinance amending and adopted as amended an ordinance contained in the City of Bardstown Code of Ordinances, Chapter 110, pawnbrokers, that the City Council of the City of Bardstown, Kentucky does hereby ordain that Sections 110.02 and Section 110.07 be amended as follows. Chapter 110, pawnbrokers. Subsection 110.02, license required. No person, firm, or corporation shall engage in the business of pawnbroker in the city without first having obtained a license permitting them to engage in such business, which license shall be granted only by the city council at a regular meeting of the council. Add, licenses are valid for a 5-year period and are renewable. All activities covered by this license shall occur on the property/business location specified on the license and during normal business hours specified on the license. As a condition for said license, all pawnbroker establishments shall install, use, and maintain a video surveillance system reasonably installed so as to record all transactions, including persons involved in those transactions. Video records shall be retained for 30 days after the date of transaction. End of the addition. Subsection 110.07, daily reports. Every pawnbroker in the city shall, by 11 a.m. each day, make available to the chief of police of the city end edition, true and correct written ad or electronic report for all goods received by him, whether by pawn or purchase during the 24 hours preceding each report. The report shall describe the goods as accurately as practicable. Add, providing or filing incomplete, false, or materially inaccurate reports shall be considered a violation of this ordinance. In the addition, the chief of police shall strike furnished blanks to the pawnbroker. Add, determine the format and manner of submittal for the report required by this section. All ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict are hereby repealed to the extent of that conflict. This ordinance shall be in full force and effect following publication as required by law.
Okay, anything you want to add as far as the background?
I think I stated it last time. I met with City Police Detective and County Attorney Matthew Height, and they were having some issues with enforcement. And they were making some changes to their processes and things, and asked that we consider amending our ordinance. I drafted these changes and sent them to them for comment, and they were on board with them.
Okay, we need a motion to approve the second reading of ordinance B 2017-17.
I move we adopt ordinance B 2017-17 pawnbrokers, chapter 10, amended.
Thank you.
Chapter 110, amended.
Have a motion, have a second. Second. Second by Councilman Buckman. Is there any discussion? Okay, call for the vote individually. I'll start on this side. Second reading. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. Thank you, Tim. Okay, next item on the agenda is our, under new business, we've got a municipal order for the city vehicle policy, and I know we have, one of our captains is going to speak to this, but there is some background to this. This change to the take-home policy, particularly as it applies to the police department, was something we've been working on for some time. Greg, you and I started on this several months ago before Chief Kresick was even hired, and it just happened to overlap into this meeting before we got it finished. Is it Joe, would you like to speak to, or Kevin?
I can.
I should say Captain Thompson, speak to kind of what the need, we saw the need for this, again, as I say, several months ago.
It's the main reason for it's recruitment and retention. Several of the small departments in the area allow this, and it's a big draw for the younger officers to be able to take the car home and go out of county. Shepherdsville allows it, J-Town, St. Matthews in Jefferson County allow it, and they allow them to go outside the county with their vehicles also. But it's getting to be a very competitive process, drawing young officers to the department, and we need whatever resources we can, and also retaining them, because you've got the other departments making these offers also, trying to draw them over. It's funny, we even talked once last week, and I was mentioning some officers at a smaller department trying to get them to come over, but that would be the main reason. Also, we're drawing a lot of festivals and events, things like that here. And if we ever had a major incident, we had to call officers in, they can come directly to wherever the event is. They wouldn't have to go get a car, get their equipment, and then come to us. So in that, it benefits the city just in that aspect also. Is there any other questions, or?
I would echo just what you mentioned there, Captain, is that in some of the exit interviews I had with some of the officers who left our department, that was part of their reason as well, that they could go to another department and have that ability to take on a vehicle where they couldn't have it here. So it wasn't all the reason, but it was one that was mentioned during that time period. So I think Greg and Chief Kresick worked on this in the last month or so. I think it's a positive change to a policy that we have, and I think it'll make a difference for our department. Tim, you just need to read the changes, I guess?
Well, the changes are referred to, but what this is doing is it's adopting as amended the policy as a whole and incorporated by reference. So if you'd like, I can read the municipal order. There is attached, I think Mary was nice enough to attach the proposed changes with highlights of the changes. And if there's any discussion after I read it, I suppose that there can be some discussion about that. Municipal order number M 2017-15, city vehicle use and assignment policy. A municipal order amending the city vehicle use and assignment policy for the city of Bardstown, originally established in municipal order number M 2016-21. Whereas the city of Bardstown has a city vehicle use and assignment policy that is in need of updating to reflect current employee recruiting methods. And whereas the current policy prohibits employees from using their assigned city vehicle to travel to and from their residence outside Nelson County, and whereas the city of Bardstown's police department recognizes the current policy limits the ability to actively recruit trained and experienced police officers from outside the Nelson County area. Now therefore be it ordered by the City Council of Bardstown that the city vehicle use and assignment policy attached hereto be adopted in full to represent the true and accurate guidelines for the use of city vehicles for employees of the City of Bardstown.
Okay, thank you, Tim. All right, need a motion then to approve municipal order number M 2017-15.
So moved.
A motion by Councilman Williams, and a second.
Second.
Second by Councilman Shekels. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, then all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Thank you. Or excuse me, Captain and Captain Joe.
Yes.
Okay, any council members have anything they want to bring before the council and the audience this evening?
Yes.
This Councilman.
I was able to go to the, I wasn't here for the last meeting, I was able to go to the Diversity Scholarship Program in Chicago. And the National Trust paid for that for me to go. And it was a great conference. It was full of, you were constantly moving every hour, and the information that was presented, the panel, the materials, they were just like way above anything that I would have expected. I thought that I was going to be a little lost because preservation is not my field. I like to go up to DC and advocate because I feel that that's something that we need their backing and their funding. But going to this conference gave me a whole new level of appreciation for what they do for us nationwide. And the focus of the conference was social justice and activism and preservation. And I was just like, what's it got to do with preservation? But it had everything to do with it because it changes the community that you're in. Whether you're urban or rural, you have to find ways to revitalize the community that you're in and use those buildings, whether it's rehabbing them, a renovation, restoration, or once again, preservation. But it just shows you that, you know, something that a young person thinks of as an old building that's fallen apart, where they have taken it and revitalized it and restored it, and the face of it is preserved, but the inside of it, they made it functional, where you could use it for other uses. So they have programs for the youth, and they gave us that information. I'm going to pass that along to Riche, because just like State Representative McCoy is starting his program at the Kovac building, I think that this is a good program for kids, for young kids to get into, is preservation, and they don't have enough young folks in it. They're begging kids to go into these fields. They're begging young adults to go in and be able to teach these courses and speak, and there's just not enough. But it starts in the school. They're actually having programs in the school. And so I think State Representative McCoy was onto something, because you know, I think we have to start them young. And when you start them young, it shows the love. They begin to love something. It's like, you know, when we live in our community, as a little girl, I loved my community, and so I came back. But I just want to give y'all one more thing about the program. I wanted to tell you something, that the president is Stephanie Meeks, and she is the CEO of the National Trust Program. And this was her stance and her intro to us when we were at the Chicago Institute. She stated that there is an opportunity and an obligation for us to step forward boldly and ensure the preservation of places which tell the often overlooked stories of African American and their many contributions to our nation. She went on to state that this would be transformation for our country, and that there were, and that they were committed to crafting a narrative that expands our views of history and ultimately begins to reconstruct our national identity while inspiring a new generation of activists to advocate for our diverse historic places. So the unveiling, the big announcement that they gave when we got up there was that they created a new division. It's called the African American Cultural Heritage Action Fund. So what they're trying to do is, some of the basis was on churches, but others are on communities that are maybe underrepresented or of color, as they stated, and to make sure that these are remain intact as well. Sometimes in communities, we're quick to tear down something that's not like us. We're quick to tear down history because no one else is watching. Right now we have Anatop. And I did discuss that with them, and I just asked Joe what the real deal was with it. But projects like this, and I know that it is crumbling and things of that nature, but this program, this fund that they have is $25 million. The church that we just restored, that's still available. I mean, that you can still get money for that. There's a whole block, the training school, the AME Zion Church, and the grocery store. Those are projects. That's a block. Those are projects that can be used in this fund right here. And so I just wanted to let you guys know that it was totally overwhelming, the information that was given. And for them to step out, I think they said that when Charlottesville happened, they wanted to make sure that they were in the forefront of making sure that history was retained. And it takes all of us to create a positive history and make sure that history is not repeated. However, when we do not work to attain the correct history is repeated again. The same mistakes are repeated again. So what they want to do is make sure that that the buildings that we have, and whether it's churches or grocery stores or someone that helped build the city or whatever, that we're able to retain some of their history, and that the funding is there. So I want to make sure that I give information to Richey and see if she would want to do the Hope Crew. It's called Hands-On Preservation Experience for the Youth. And there's a small group of cities that are doing it, but if we could do it, that would be really awesome, to give a child a different experience. And most of you are businessmen, and it would just be enlightening for them. It would give them a chance to say, you know what, I don't have to try to be a basketball star or football star, because I could be a star in my own thing, like saving cities and revitalizing cities. So I just wish I was younger than I am now, and I was interested in it more when I was younger than starting off late at 47 years old. So thank you for listening to me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Coleman, for the report. Maybe there's some funding that might come from that trip that you might be Richey to take advantage of for some of these projects.
Yeah.
Good information. Any other councilman have any other thing to bring before us this evening? Okay, we have some cemetery deeds. Jenny Ritchie for one grave and Donna Hayes for one grave. Approval by unanimous consent. Okay. And then we've got a number of anniversaries to report tonight. Is this, did we miss a few months?
September, October, November.
I was thinking, surely not all these people started in November.
No.
In some given year.
I'm playing catch up a little bit on that.
Okay. Full disclosure there, thank you. Okay, we have Jeremy Kyle with Public Works, has 5 years. We have Josh Downs with Public Works, 5 years. Travis Hamilton with Public Works, 5 years. Renee Maupin with Cable has 5 years. Ernie Powell, who was here earlier with the Fire Department, has 10 years. Bobby Young with Public Works is 10 years. Charlotte Livers with the Jerry Riley wastewater plant has 15 years. Rick Workman, Cable, has 15 years. And Don Wilson, water treatment plant, 40 years. So he's still taking, still doing a good job down there keeping our water safe. So if you see those individuals out, and of course you'll have an opportunity to see some of them at our Christmas party here in a few weeks, let them know how much we appreciate their service to our city and to our community. And Christmas party again, what's the date?
15.
15th. Okay, thank you. 6 o'clock, and I think the email's gone out to RSVP properly. So hopefully everybody's had a chance to RSVP.
You want to your nominations as well?
Well, I have raised that at the staff, but yeah, we also have asked the department heads to, and any council member or employee, we are looking for an employee of the year. We do identify an employee of the year. So if you have someone you would like to nominate, we're taking nominations now, so it doesn't have to be a department head, or the council members can also.
Any member of the public
Any member of the public.
can nominate a city employee.
And we would encourage you to get those in before that evening, so you make a determination.
Who makes the determination? I didn't hear
Well, it's
that.
going to be going, I guess, by the number of
Nominations.
nominations somebody gets, and I guess Mary and myself.
In the past, the clerk and HR have sort of made their recommendations, or narrowed it down and then presented it to the mayor for the final decision.
Is there a guideline to go by for the employee of the year?
Don't know that there's any written guideline. No.
I think Mayor Shekel started it. It was done after I was here.
Started in 2012.
I don't know how it was handled under the last administration, but I was there for years, so.
Since my first.
Well, basically, they just, if someone thought someone was, had done a good job, they just made a written recommendation and why they thought this person was going to have made a good employee of the year and signed it. No anonymous recommendations.
I just replied to the email that we recorded with the nomination back to Jenny.
Yeah, but you
Yeah,
need to specify why you think that person should be.
Yeah, well, she asked for a paragraph, I think, in the email, so.
She received it.
Any other questions? All right. Nothing else is on the agenda. We have a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Center, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Buckley. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?